You're very welcome to the Woman to Woman show with me, Roisin the Cleric, and with boots in the background. And our guest for this show is indeed Gladys O'Neill. Many of our viewers will recognise Gladys as one of our panel discussionists on the Woman to Woman panel show. Gladys, you're very welcome to the Woman to Woman show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gladys, you are coming on and you're going to talk about a health condition, and I hope I can pronounce it, but you'll correct me anyway. It's pernicious anemia.
Yeah, pernicious anemia, or PA for short.
PA for short. Gladys, what is pernicious anemia? And, so first of all, if you tell us what it is and how it affects people.
Pernicious anemia is a very rare autoimmune disease, and it attacks the body, sort of thing. It's regarding, sort of thing, B12, a vitamin B12 that most people think is just a vitamin, but in fact it's vital for a healthy body and for healthy red blood cells. So B12 is hugely important, and if you have pernicious anemia, it's gut related. Right. So it isn't to do, sort of thing like pernicious anemia is very, very misunderstood. People think, well, it's only a vitamin, and it's a vitamin that's given because you're a bit tired or a bit fatigued. But in fact, it's every cell in your body is affected. If you do not have the right amounts of B12 in your body, or if your body's not able to make B12, which is pernicious anemia. So it's a gut disorder, autoimmune disease.
My next question is, what are the symptoms?
The symptoms can go on for years. Very, very difficult to actually diagnose pernicious anemia. So most people, the belief is now, and the research which has been done on pernicious anemia, is that it is what seriously leads it is the neurological and the symptom led. So if you're going to attend your doctor because you have, for instance, numbness, in your hands and feet, I'll just give you, slowly over the years, I'll just tell you my story. I suppose it's easier. Yes. Usually what happens in my research since I've developed pernicious anemia, that I had another autoimmune disease in my 20s, which is Graves' disease. And you usually get more than one. If you have an autoimmune disease, you'll get one, another one. And it would take a while for, B12 or pernicious anemia to take hold. And so the effects that it was having on me was being very tired, but then you think, well, you're living a life, you're busy, you're working, had a very stressful job. You think, well, that's part and parcel of whatever. And then I would have not every day, or maybe not even every week, a kind of a numbness in my feet. And it would come and go. Pins and needles in my hands, it would come and go. Then, sort of thing, my balance would be off, it would come and go. So all of these symptoms, so I was going back and forward to the doctor with nothing that you could actually pin down,
Right.
Yeah, so I would have this kind of a numbness here, a kind of off balance, vertigo, all of these, vision, but they weren't. Brain fog was probably one of the worst. So you're not really clear, and the neurological symptoms and the cognitive, if that's the right pronunciation, yes. They, concentration was really poor, brain fog, and all of this. So they could be all of the symptoms of a load of other things. And that's what happened, sort of thing, like with me, it was a slow, really slow, where the damage was being slowly done to my body, sort of thing, from a lack of B12 in my system. And when I'm eventually diagnosed with pernicious anemia, the damage was done to my spinal cord. So once the nerves are dead, that's it. And then I had peripheral nerve damage done to my legs. So I've been left with no balance, I've no balance left. I have damage to subacute, as they call it, spinal cord damage, numbness in my feet and whatever, and injections for life. Because I do not, yeah. So because I don't make B12, so it doesn't matter how much vitamins or steak I eat, or that does not matter. I don't make it, so it has to be put into my muscles.
So
and it is, sorry.
Just for and we'll come back to the B12 going into your muscles. Can you just tell our audience, for audience that don't know what B12 is, what is B12?
It is a vitamin that's vital for your body. When most people make it themselves through their diet. A lot of people that are vegans or, have an issue, they have to supplement their intake with vitamin B12 vitamins or things like that, because they're not getting it from their diet, So they might have issues with low, but they might not have a gut, pernicious anemia. They mightn't have the gut problem. They might be just low in B12. And by taking supplements, will rise up their B12 in their body. So they're not suffering, But it's
how would you know if your B12 was affecting your gut?
By a blood test. But it has to be particularly a blood test. It isn't just what the Pernicious Anemia Society advocate, and I would be a believer in, that it is led by the neurological symptoms. So if you're going to the doctor with numbness in your feet, pins and needles in your hands, and all of the things that I mentioned, you're walking, your gait is wrong, you're stamping your foot on the ground rather than lifting, heel to toes, which most people walk. But if you're going flat, there's a problem with your gait. So if there's a problem with your balance, and so it's more the neurological symptoms rather than what a blood test. A blood test could tell you that you still have good rates of B12 in your body, but you have all of these neurological, so it's a particular blood test that is done to have a look to see if you have actually got pernicious anemia. It isn't easy. And I think I wrote down, sort of thing like, 40%, it mostly affects women.
Right.
And 40% are misdiagnosed, 48%, sorry, get a wrong diagnosis like I did. I got diagnosed with everything, MS being one of them. MS was the one that I was diagnosed or thought of that there might be MS. I might have MS. And then it was arthritis in my spine, because it wasn't a daily thing that happened to you. You thought you were going mental. You thought you were going mad, because one day you couldn't feel your feet or your hands, or your balance was off, or all of these things, you couldn't think straight. And the next day you'd be kind of grand. So it was really, it really messed with your head, sort of. And so they thought maybe MS. Then they just thought, well, it would be arthritis of the spine. Then it was, depression. Then it was a list just goes on. So until it was, then it made complete sense. And then the misunderstanding then was that if you flood the body with B12, the repair happens, Now I repaired to the level that I'm at to this day. Once they pumped my body with, so you're talking about daily injections to pump up the B12, to bring it, to do repairs to the nerve cells. But once the nerves are damaged, and that was only, plus the neurological, with no balance and whatever, but to know exactly what the damage was, I had to have an MRI, what they call a C-spine. So where your head is covered and you're put into a machine. And then it was fully diagnosed that I have a subacute spinal cord damage due to pernicious anemia. So my spinal cord is damaged. This is how serious it can be. Now mine is very rare. It is not, I've gone to conferences about pernicious anemia, and I was the only one that was, if you like, so badly affected. Everybody else had all sorts of different symptoms, which are all really difficult to deal with, seriously difficult. It, it is not a nice disease, to have, and the chances are that you will get another, one autoimmune disease will bring you into another and another, and whatever the case may, it isn't a pleasant disorder.
So my next question is, so the diagnosis is done through a blood test.
Yeah.
That would tell you. And then another blood test tells you if it's in the PA, because I can't pronounce the word.
Pernicious anemia.
Pernicious anemia is in the gut.
No, it's caused by the gut isn't working properly. It won't absorb B12.
So the gut does not absorb B12, and that is the issue of.
And that's why you have to have an injection into your muscle. Some people do it daily because they believe in, and I believe this as well, that it's symptom led, not the levels in your body. So, what the average level would be, I'm not sure, what it would be. But my blood could say it's 1400, in my blood system, but yet my legs are numb. So it's the neurological effect, So any damage, with me now, it is if I don't get B12, I will die. That's it. Wow. That's how important it is. That, it's not. So I've had people say to me, B12, sure. Like seriously, they honestly don't realize how if I don't have it, I will die. And in fact, it was people died from it until somebody discovered, they used to give people raw liver and all of this kind of carry on, sort of thing, to try bring up their B12 until they discovered, sort of thing, that they could inject it and whatever. So it's it isn't a joke disease. It's very serious. But people think, oh, I go to the, beautician and she gives me B12. Oh, that's very nice,
Yep.
You don't have pernicious anemia.
No. To Gladys, I would say there's an awful lot. So you go to the doctor, you have diagnosed, and it was it's a symptom and a disease that can be easily misdiagnosed, and have to really rule out everything else, and then the blood test then would have you that.
What I would say myself now, having gone through all of this, if I had wished somebody had said it to me, that look, regardless, sort of, my friend who's a doctor said, in Holland, what they would do is, just as a matter of course, no matter what you come into the doctor with, a pimple, you still got your blood's done.
Right.
In Holland, they don't do it here, but I wish somebody had told me, sort of thing, like just to demand my bloods to be done, or, sort of thing, to rule out anything, and it wasn't. And, that is and also if you've got all of these kind of symptoms, and I think, you see, women get a lot of, this way, it does affect women. We get a lot of these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brain fog and all of this,
Oh God, yeah. I had
concentration, all of these things.
Pins and needles. I had them all.
Yeah. And women are also, not believed, really, Roisin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're saying, well, Asher, look, it's your age and it's your this and your that. And because it's not clear, if your arm falls off, you go into the doctor and you say, listen, my arm's after falling off. It's very clear that you're just haven't got an arm, This is so vague, that's why it's so hard to diagnose. And the damage has been done daily. When to the nerves. It's so important for brain health, for literally to live, so it is very important. Yeah.
So Gladys, it has to be self-managed, you have it's medically managed through the injections.
Yeah.
Right. So then I would imagine there's a lot of self-management and self-care to manage the symptoms. How do you self-manage the symptoms?
Well, there's controversy, sort of, and I've had this said by medical professionals, you don't need it every month. Who told you this? you know, in the UK is a huge problem in the UK because they give it every 3 months, regardless of the symptoms, you know. So you have, you know, medical people not taking pernicious anemia serious, and the serious, you know, damage. I mean, I've had doctors look at me and say, there's no way this could have been done by pernicious anemia. And then I point everybody that's ever concerned, I would point them to the Pernicious Anemia Society. They're based in Wales. They do fabulous research. You know, I would love to set up a self-help group here, but they do fantastic research. They, you know, and advice for anybody that's worried about pernicious anemia or think they might have it, or the symptoms, or what to look out for. Because there's loads of things, you know, my hair fell out, my nails, my skin fell off my body, you know.
What?
Yes, yeah, my, you know, yeah, eyebrows, eyelashes, my hair, my skin. I still have a problem with my skin. It's never gone back to anyway normal, you know, sort of thing. Like, and there's loads of kind of weird things about pernicious anemia that, you know, had it not damaged my spine, my, you know, my spinal cord, still difficult to live with. Do you know what I mean? You're exhausted most of the time. So I have the disability now. I'm disabled because of it. Who'd ever, have you ever, anybody ever said to you, Roisin, that, oh, B12 could make you disabled?
No.
Or that you could die from the lack of it? No.
So what do you do on a daily basis then to maintain and manage your symptoms?
Well, yeah, that's a good one. You know, sort of thing. Like, I mean, sometimes you're just so coming up to, I would call it coming up to my injection time, right? If I could self-inject, I would. But I'm too nervous, too scared, you know, sort of thing, because if it does not go into the right place, the right part of the muscle, it could hurt it, nerve damage. You could do more damage to myself than, and I'm a bit, you know, it's not a pleasant injection. You know, it's not a walk in the park. I do it because it keeps me alive, you know, but to do it on my own, and people do it, you know, they do, because of the symptoms and to ease. You cannot overdose on B12. It's water-based, so it just flushes out of your system.
Right.
But the red cells need it to bring oxygen around the body and into your lungs. So your breathing is affected. I have a disorder in my lungs now, and your breathing is affected by pernicious anemia. There isn't a part of your body that isn't. Your nails, every single part of your body. So to maintain exercise, my muscles go into spasms. It's a nightmare, you know, sort of thing. It's painful. I'm in pain every day, all day, 24/7. But I don't go on about it because nobody wants to listen. Do you know what I mean? Say, you know. So it is a lot of, it's very painful. Yeah.
So you do exercise. What kind of exercise? I imagine it's just movement. It's not like hitting the gym on the treadmill. It's about it's exercise movements.
Well, you know, exercise quite difficult. Well, they're not difficult. That's not true. It's difficult to motivate yourself when you're constantly in pain. So there's exercise, sitting down exercises that I do.
Yoga? Do you do chair yoga?
Yeah, I used to teach yoga years ago. Yeah, yoga gave birth through yoga, and so yoga was very strong in my life. So to become disabled by something that you think is so simple as B12, it's really hard to comprehend. You know, most people, I don't tell most people because I don't think they actually believe me. So, but I wouldn't want anybody.
So the exercise you do, is it like all the exercise sitting down in the chair because of your balance?
I have no balance.
You have no balance, so everything's by sitting in the chair, the movement and the exercises. I
use a rollator. I have to hold on to something, you know, sort of thing. I have to center myself. Do you know what I mean? So if I fall on the ground, Roisin, I can't get back up. End of story. I can't get back up. I cannot actually pull myself back up. I don't know why that is, you know, sort of thing, because I have feelings in my legs, but I have fallen you know, in the early days when I didn't realize what you do. So self-care would be in about being very aware of your surroundings,
Yes.
very aware of, you know, precautions to make sure that you don't fall. And sometimes it's happened when my concentration wouldn't be, you know, on par, and that you would be, you know, I've nearly fallen a good few times. And that's a living nightmare, because, you know, we break your bones or hips or whatever.
And how do you deal with the low moods, with being in pain and exhausted all the time, and not being so mobile and being able to just get up and go out?
Well, it's funny because it isn't funny. So that's the ironic thing. It's not funny.
Excuse me.
I think nobody ever asks you, you know, because you had a life, you know, you lived in a world that was designed for you as an able-bodied person. And I now live in a life that is not suitable for a disabled person. So it was such a shock. Nobody asks. That was the worst part, if you like. You know, how do you cope from, you know, having been completely independent and living your independent life that most of us, you know, try to lead, to finding yourself dependent? You know, that was the world's worst. That was very hard to, that was worse than any pain that I've gone
Losing
through.
your independence.
Oh, 100%. And losing my autonomy, you know, and the way I've been treated ever since. You know, people assume if you have a physical disability that you have a mental disability as well.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
there's this assumption. There's also assumption of fragility, you know, afraid of you, or you're fragile and need to be treated like a child. And I've been treated like that, which is really annoying. But most places aren't accessible. So if, for example, Roisin, that, for instance, I use a rollator, and that is, you know, enables me to get out, you know, or to go, you know, do a bit of shopping or whatever. But if it was any other person that had to stand outside somewhere because they couldn't get in, because it's not accessible, there'd be uproar. There would be, you know, because, you know, that isn't the case for somebody with a disability. It's just, we shut up. So what? You know? And so that's very hard to you know, to deal with and comprehend, that you can only, you know, through the looking glass, you're looking in, while other people, there's places that I've had to, can't go in, so I have to go home. You know?
What?
Yeah, I've had to go home because I can't access, or so everything has to be thought out. In the early stages, when I was trying to get used to the inaccessibility of places, what it means for me to live in the world, to be part of the world, there was a part that happened where I just didn't want to face it. It was too difficult, because the world to disabled people is turned off, you know, and I don't think people get it, you know, and I thought I understood it because I worked within the disability area of life, but I didn't until it happened to me. And so the things that were part of my life are no longer part of, I've had to reinvent this new reality. And that means cutting out a lot of the things that, like, it's cut out spontaneity. I don't have spontaneity. I have to plan everywhere. You know, I have to ask questions that most people wouldn't even think of. Why would they? You know, there's all of the things that you miss in life, you know, dancing and movement, and just saying, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to go for a walk. I feel extremely vulnerable nowadays. You know, I feel quite threatened, you know, because if I'm walking, especially on my own, you know, if somebody came and took my rollator from me, I'd fall to the ground, I'd be on the ground. And that vulnerability doesn't leave you. As a woman, you're vulnerable anyway. Well, I've always felt that way. And now I'm 100% added onto it, because I'm noticeable, because they see the rollator first. And that's how you're judged. You know, people stare at you. Found that really difficult to cope with. You know, really difficult. That was really, because they're making a judgment. I've had the weirdest people ask me the weirdest things. So I decided to make up weird stories. You know, yeah, well, for my own amusement, mostly. You know, because if you're going to, be really cheeky and sort of ask really rude questions,
Oh,
I'm
Gladys.
going to give you back some maybe upbeat story. Do you know what I mean? Some fantastic, not, I had no B12. That doesn't sound really exciting. So I make up really good stuff. Do you know what I mean? So look at, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, any of these things, but in a world that is no longer available to you. I think the best thing that I've done out of developing this disease has become that I've become an advocate for
And a very good one at that.
for the doors being closed. So the doors should be open, sort of thing. Because really the understanding, like if I said to you, 48% of people are misdiagnosed. So I don't know, and I don't know if the figures are out there, how many people have had nerve damage like I have and who have become disabled, but they would be maybe not as severe as me, with spinal cord damage, but the fatigue, the brain fog, when you're trying to hold down a job and you need to concentrate and you don't know why your brain is not working. Somebody tells you it's the menopause. Somebody tells you it's, you're tired, you're overwrought, you're stressed. And the favorite thing is that you're depressed.
Yes.
No, that's a lovely one. And I looked at the statistics, the amount of antidepressants that are doled out is unbelievable. Half of these people, I assume, and I'm no doctor, but would be possibly B12 problem, not depression at all, but the symptoms would be quite similar. They don't have time to investigate. You come with vague symptoms, and you're a woman, well, you must be depressed. So, it's terribly sad, but that's just, so you've got to fight your corner. If you think, for anybody out there that listens to this and who has any of those symptoms that I've, neurological, cognitive, the brain, fog, rhythm, just again, they're the dominant factors in pernicious anemia, and it can be slowly over years. And something I learned only today, so you're always learning, because it's a rare disease. So years ago, I used to think, God, that's really weird, strange in me. I just thought it was me, a quirky thing of me. So say you were washing your hair, you decided just to wash your hair, right? And you leaned over a bath to wash your hair. And I'd say, oh my God, it would be like electric shock going up my spine.
Oh.
And I would think, God, that's weird. I wonder what that is in my neck and my spine. Only when I'd be washing my hair, not like being struck by lightning or anything, but just a kind of a tingle. I'd put it at. I've had that since I was in my 20s.
Really?
Yeah. So that also is a symptom. And you see, the thing about it is I had Graves' disease, which is a thyroid disease. It's connected. So that was the first autoimmune disease. And I got that sorted and dealt with, and, you name it at the time, because I was only very young when I got it. It's also genetically connected. My mother had it as well. But that tingling thing, I never knew what that was until today.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So that's, like I just thought it was that I was hypersensitive. Do you know what I mean? That so you also have this kind of sensitivity to your skin, hot and cold. That could be menopause, but the flatting, not walking properly on your heel to toe, the neurological, the blurred vision, the balance, what else have I got here? The brain fog, all of these things, and the only way of making sure that you don't have pernicious anemia is to have regular blood tests and to make sure that they're checking for, especially if there's a history of thyroid within your family, your mother had it, or your father, or some relative, sort of thing, like, had this. And there's the added worry with pernicious anemia. And I can connect all the dots. My grandmother, my father's side, died of stomach cancer. it is connected to pernicious anemia.
Really?
There is a huge, strong
Wow.
connection, yeah, to pernicious anemia. His sister had a problem. My father's sister had a problem with it. All of my children suffer with their stomach. But,
I do as
none of them
well.
have pernicious anemia, thank God, because I have them checked. They get themselves checked really regular, and any of the kind of symptoms or signs, So it is something I would literally go around with one of those banners, like over my head. Please get your B12 checked. You know what I mean? So, because it is a nasty, nasty disease. Nasty.
And because I got to know you over the last many, many months, we've really got within the ladies who know you and within the panel discussion, and we've met a couple of times, that it is very obvious seeing the difficulty that you have within movement and being mobile. So, and that's what I love about doing these shows and my radio show, because it really is information that we're getting out there to the general public about different issues, especially issues that women are living with. So, Gladys, tell us about the diet, because you probably have to change your diet to help with your gut and with your health as well.
Well, I think if there isn't so much, I mean, what they don't tell you anything. All of this is a learning curve for yourself, and when you're diagnosed with pernicious anemia, you don't get to see all of the people that you should be surrounded by a blanket of information, sort of physio, all of the things that one would need to live any kind of a life, So everything you do, you have to learn for yourself, or go reaching out and searching for yourself and stuff like that, about physical exercise, because there's another side to pernicious anemia, Roisin. Exercise burns it up, so you're kind of torn. Do you know what I mean?
But
So
exercise burns up
it can
B12.
burn your energy levels because your muscles need to work, right? Sort of thing. They need a load of things, for them to work when you exercise. So you could drain yourself of your B12. I've learned well, yeah. Sort of thing. Like, I mean, exercise is really good because it's good for your mental health and physically. Weight lifting, sort of thing, like anything as you get older, any of those weight bearing exercises are really good, and you name it. But diet wise, so I mean, another issue that's turned into a nightmare is another autoimmune disease, which is diabetes.
Yeah.
Diabetic. Type 2, sort of thing. Like, I mean, all of those are issues that come up with another autoimmune interconnected, So that is a very strict, which I don't stick to, because I think, oh my God, I've been stripped of everything. Jesus, give me a bit of chocolate, just let me have a bit of chocolate. But for vegans and people that don't, because they don't like meat for whatever reasons, or, their belief system or whatever the case may be, or taste-wise, or love of animals or whatever, they have to be very careful in they have to get their B12, and this is where the misconception comes into it, that somebody who's a vegan or vegetarian, because they're not eating the meat, liver, all of the things that you're going to get B12 from, nuts, all of that they can build, they have to supplement it. There's no two ways about it. But if they have pernicious anemia, that is not going to happen. I've always been a meat eater. I like meat, probably too much. I'd go the opposite way. But if I had a whole cow in front of you, it wouldn't make a hell of difference, only making me fatter. That's all. It wouldn't make my pernicious anemia go away.
So what do you need to eat? Eggs? What other foods do you need to make sure it's in your diet?
Well, eggs could be problematic,
Would they be problematic, would they?
Yeah. There's certain foods, so what I try to do is eat for gut health, so all of the things, and there's all of that buzz about, what are they called? Probiotics. I can't think even the name of it, but whatever. So I would eat, for instance, myself, I would eat natural Greek yogurt and mix fruits in with them,
Yeah.
They're quite good for your gut, sort of thing. Like I would drink beetroot juice.
I love
It's very good for your lungs.
Yeah.
It brings oxygen around your body, which pernicious anemia affects. Because also, I forgot to mention that pernicious anemia, my blood cells are not shaped like yours.
Really?
Yeah, they're a different shape, which is another indication that you have pernicious anemia. They are not the same shape. So for them to carry the blood around and the oxygen into your lungs is what causes you to have lung issues as well, as well as everything else. So they're a different shape, So, but beetroot juice, they've done major studies on
I
this.
love beetroot.
Well, actually, I love eating it. Drinking it, I'm not that fond of, but the theory is behind it, and the studies that they've discovered kind of by accident is that for people with COPD, that drinking the beetroot juice oxygenated the cells and brought more oxygen to the lungs, which was an improvement with COPD. I told my consultant that. He was very impressed. But because it was a real proper study. It wasn't just, these makey-uppy things that they flog on television.
And would you need to eat like the leafy green leaves and vegetables as well?
People that have a low B12 need to eat leafy green veg. They might need to take iron, and iron has, B9, all of the B vitamins. But all of that are not going to affect pernicious anemia sufferers. But for somebody with low B12, they have to bulk up on the leafy green and the iron and all of those things, and that to keep their blood cells in good condition. But it's only people that have, and like I don't know what the numbers are. It's incredible the amount of people that I've come across that have pernicious anemia.
Because that was what I was going to ask you. What is the percentage of the population that have pernicious anemia?
Well, again, it's
anemia.
PA. Yeah, it's very hard to know because it's of such misdiagnosis. It's the really difficult, and say within the Pernicious Anemia Society, and as I say, that they would be in UK, and then the evidence around Europe and the evidence from America is that doctors and the medical profession, there's only few specialists that actually deal with pernicious anemia,
right,
and gut-related disorders, right?
Really?
And if I could get a hold of somebody that took it really seriously, because it's kind of like well, you've pernicious anemia, sure, that's terrible, off you go then. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that can kill you, like that seems to be by the by. I'm amazed at how casual the whole thing is seen. Like I don't know, maybe it's because that the people are not having the symptoms every day, daily. Do you know what I mean? And because they're vague, maybe that's. But I would advise anybody with any symptom or anything that they're concerned about, even they're having their routine blood test, put in B12 in there to check your B12. Because honestly, as I said before, I just would hate anybody to go through because of the lack of knowledge, and that's all it is. Do you know what I mean? Doctors are not taught about pernicious anemia. Very few of them, know about it, sort of thing. Like, and in my view, this is a personal view, so I'm not preaching anything. The medical profession should see the whole body.
Yeah.
Not a bit of an arm, and a bit of a lung here and a bit of a this there, and holistically, because we are mind, body, and soul. We're not just a bit of an arm or a bit of a gut or whatever. So everything is connected. So if we could be seen as all connected and the effects that it has on the body, maybe they wouldn't be so flippant about
And
something like
Gladys, you've told me many, many times in our conversations that an awful lot of women, well, just it's a women's show, but an awful lot of people living with disabilities and who need wheelchairs
yeah.
or the rollers. What is it you have?
Rollator.
Rollator.
Yeah.
That even when they go for a hospital appointment, say for X-rays, that hospital equipment is not built or designed. Even the mammograms are not built or
No.
designed for people living with
No.
disabilities.
No, I mean, it's honestly, I could honestly, if you didn't experience it, you wouldn't believe it. You think people were making it up, you know. I had the misfortune of becoming extremely ill, where I ended up in a coma, induced coma. I don't know, I don't remember anything, you know, sort of thing, because of my lungs. So the doctor told my eldest daughter it was like that that I was in a fire, you know, like I had no oxygen, you know. So look at a bit of a miracle, you know, sort of
You are a miracle.
out of this, but you know, sort of thing. So I have spinal cord damage, right? And I come out of this coma with lung damage, you know, like as if I was in a fire. They don't know what I have. They didn't know, cannot tell why the damage was done. I never had an antibiotic in my life, you know. I find, you know, all of this. But so I'm in hospital, I'm in ICU, I'm in an intensive care, I'm in a step down from when they brought me out of the coma. And I said to my family, will you bring in my rollator? Even though I was wired up to all this equipment, I was thinking, how am I going to get out of here? And I can't go anywhere without my rollator, you know. They're my legs. And the consultant asked me what it was. Why is this here? Right. And I said, well, I can't get to the bathroom if I don't have this. He said, why? Why? And I said, are you joking me? I thought he was joking. You know, I really liked him now, I have to say. He was really pleasant and he was funny. And we talked a lot about books, which had nothing to do with my medical condition. But I said, you are joking. You do know that I have pernicious anemia and my spinal cord is damaged. And he said, really? Really? I said, I find that hard. See, you know why, Roisin? He was only interested in my lungs.
Yes.
That's all his eyes and his focus was my lungs. The fact that I couldn't walk was, well, sure, that's somebody else's problem. Do you know what I mean? You can't, you know, and they couldn't work out because my blood cells are a different shape because of the pernicious anemia. There was a conflict of, you know, constant blood tests, constant testing of this, the other. All they had to do was ask me. You know, they didn't know what, you know, like they couldn't believe I couldn't walk. You know, I thought, oh my God. So yeah, I'd love to go around lecturing, you know, telling them, look at you know, tell them, oh my God, you know, you have to open your eyes, you know. And so, and I have to say, this is a bugbear, Roisin. I don't want to go on about it, but this really is a bugbear. Nurses, what in my mind, you know, a nurse is somebody that looks at you, that can see you, looks from head to toe, and usually is the kind of the instinctive thing that will say to the doctor, do you know something, Roisin's not looking great. She hasn't been great, and I've noticed this, that in her pallor or whatever.
Yeah.
Now nurses look at computers. They don't look at the patient. That's what my discovery. I asked one nurse, could you please give me eye contact? Because I am not a computer, you know? It might tell you what tablets you're giving me or what you might have to write it down, or, you know, but do not look at the patient. Do not, you know, so this is a huge, you know, bugbear because they couldn't tell if I was well or, you know, indifferent or, you know, you name it. All they could really tell was they'd given me X amount of drugs. I swallowed them. I looked like I wasn't dead, you know. She seems to like food, you know.
She seems like
And she has this weird thing that she uses to walk around with, you know. So, but they've no information. And I will say that the healthcare workers, the girls that would give you a, you know, intimate care,
yes,
would notice, do you know, like something like Roshan, how important would it be? Will I wash your hair? I notice that your hair is, you know, and how women feel about when their hair, especially if their hair is not washed, you know, the kindness of strangers. How do you fancy getting your hair washed? You know,
yeah,
will I wash your hair? And only the healthcare systems that are on the least amount of money, you know, would sort of say, would notice your mood, how you're feeling, how
yes.
you're looking. So they're now replacing what a nurse would spot straight away, what used to be in their training.
Well.
But they're now trained just to look at a computer. And I don't mean I adore nurses. They do a really
And
tough
that's not
job.
reflect on the nurses, it's an effect on the system.
Yes.
And they probably are
It's all
saying
about
the
writing
same thing,
notes.
that, you know, we went we went to university to study nursing,
Yeah.
and all we're doing is looking at computers. It's not like the old, you know, nursing basics of nursing, looking after patients.
Yeah.
And
And
it's the
getting
way
to
the
know.
whole world is gone, isn't it? It's just the whole system,
Yeah.
all the system, every system within the systems of society, medicine, banking, finance, everything
Yeah, that
is
it's the
broken
removal of the
down.
human. It's the removal
Yeah,
of the essence, that the soul of the person, the human kindness. And I have to tell you, you know, not, you know, I was met with huge kindness, you
yes,
know, really, and mostly from, you know, from the people that, you know, now some of the nurses were really beautiful and kind, and, you know, would spend the time, you know, they're very busy. They do have to fill out all these millions of forms in case they get sued, you know, or whatever. So the actual interaction between a patient and, you know, exerting a nurse or whatever, and to notice that things aren't great, other than, you know, some machine telling them, you know, but as a human being, the healthcare assistants are doing that kind of work now. And again, they're run off their feet,
yeah.
you know, sort of thing. It's not a very high paying job, but they're the ones that have the interconnection. And I will say this to you, Roisin, as somebody that worked within healthcare and now that sees the whole the and who's big into holistic attitudes, you know, even though I've got all these things wrong with me. So the power of holding a hand,
I have touch.
of the touch, of the reassurance. You can see that in a toddler who puts his hand in his nana's hand
Yeah,
for security, to feel safe, or his mom's or his dad's or whoever they love or close to. That reassurance that the little toddler will hold on to, or a baby will hold on to your little finger. You know, you remember that, you know, they
yeah,
just have a hold of you, like a grip of you, or whatever. The elderly person, you know, and I'm one of them, you know, the holding of somebody's hand to reassure them, the human touch. I absolutely 100% believe in the power of that,
so do I.
and you don't get it. The simplest thing, like, you know, holding somebody's hand or massaging their hands, just as you know, asking them, and how are they? Will I, you know, just something as simple as that, I think has the healing effect of could nearly half the drug problem, you know what I mean, of pumping drugs into people, or their well-being, and especially when they're scared and frightened in hospital, you know, or anywhere for that matter. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Do you know what I mean? It seems that you fill out a newspaper.
Well, this little guy who's meowing here is he gives me so much healing touch. This little guy, he's
Yeah, but
bossy, he's well named Bossy Boots, and
yeah,
the power of touch, and
yeah,
that's why they say cats have healing powers. And you even can
yeah,
say that with people with dogs, and even like stroking cats, they say that if you know, if you stroke a cat that's purring, the healing
yeah.
within. Is that right? And he's purring now, aren't you, Boots? He's giving me
Well, I
kisses.
mean, I think we've now, we live in a society, and now changing from pernicious anemia to what's wrong with society, but we don't do, there is not the healing touch.
No.
You know, everybody's terrified, you know, everybody's afraid and whatever. So, you know, the idea, you know, that the actual power, you know, I remember somebody in the medical profession saying to me, when I have a patient in with me that's nervous and frightened, and, you know, they're anxious about maybe a diagnosis or what they have to tell me or whatever, I always hold their hand. It just centers them.
Yeah.
Completely centers them. Or somebody coming into, I think I read his book, coming into A&E, he was an A&E consultant, I think he's retired now, was always touch the hand to center the person, reassure them that, you know, you're in safe hands now. There is a reason why that is,
Yes.
you're in safe hands now, but people don't do it, and it's going to be okay. We're going to look after you. You know, we're going to hold, you know, you're in safe hands. So I think that power, you know, it isn't always about huge amount of money. You know what I mean? Big budgets, you know, with the HSC. You know, maybe they just hire in hand masseuses, you know, to go around and you know.
And that's why a lot of residential care places, they all have cats and dogs that live within.
Yeah, when my dad was in a place, I used to bring Barney every day, and Barney would hop out of the car, belt in, because he knew he'd get some food. So he'd belt in, and it was down 3 corridors and around the bend and left and right, and you name it, to find my dad. But he'd find him, not a bother, every single time. And some of the poor gentlemen there would call him Spot and all this kind of carry on. But they would all, something about it, you know, babies and dogs, you know, sort of thing. Like, I mean, something melts the heart and reconnects them with something, you know. So yeah, if I could change the world, I would do that. I would bring about, you know, the healing.
Animals have the most amazing senses, don't they?
Yes.
I know this guy, he knows if I'm upset, he knows if I'm in a good mood, and knows if I'm in a bad mood, and he knows exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Now he's a scallywag. He's as bold as anything. He's as bold, and I mean bold as brass, aren't you?
But I mean, I think that, you know, that if somebody living on their own, they're coming in and a dog is there, no matter what you've done or said, or you know, humor, or you name it, that dog was going to love you at the door. It's going to be, you know, as if, you know, sort of thing, it's the first time he's seen you, and you name it. So it's the healing power of an animal, you know, sort of thing, and the love,
The
you know,
love, the
love,
unconditional love with no
conditional.
agenda. You know, apart from
Absolutely.
this guy, it's like he'll walk you to the fridge and you have to give him milk
Yeah.
and ham and cream.
Once you're fed, once they're
Once they're
fed.
fed, yeah, we had a dog, and oh my God, you know, as soon as you open the door, she's sleeping in my bed, and she's a big dog, and all you hear with the thump, and she'll
Yeah.
come running down the stairs, and the body going from one side to the other down the stairs,
Yeah.
and the joy in just seeing you,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
you really went to the shop.
It's absolutely a miracle, you know, sort of thing. Like, I mean, that, you know, and it brings people. I think, see, I can't do that anymore. You know, I'd love another dog, but I can't, because it wouldn't be fair on any dog. And I think the really part, you know, being disabled was when I had Ozzy, that I fostered, and then I ended up adopting him and whatever. And when he got really ill, I couldn't drive to bring him to the vet. I couldn't bend down to, he knew something was wrong. He knew, and he knew by me, you know, that I was really upset, and what am I going to do? How am I going to get him to a vet? What am I? And he was out in the garden. He was underneath the table out in the garden. He wouldn't come out for me.
Oh,
I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So, as luck would have it, you know, sort of thing, I rang this vet, and he said, look, we do a taxi service. He'll come, an animal lover. He'll come and get him and bring him into, you know, because I explained that, again, there's another disadvantage to being disabled. You know, couldn't get a hold of Ozzy, and, you know, and to see a stranger, a taxi man, you know, getting Ozzy, was terrified, and picking him up. you know, and I could cry now because he, you know,
Oh,
the last I saw, well, that's not true. It wasn't the last that I saw of him because my children then went, the vet held on to him, you know,
oh,
sort of,
got
it took,
me crying now.
yeah, to videotape, you know, in a video,
Oh,
so I could say
yeah.
goodbye to Ozzy. I didn't have that with, you know,
We
so
didn't. I didn't get to say goodbye to
yeah,
my beautiful woman either because we took her to the vet and she
mm,
never came back out.
yeah.
And
You know something,
I've
Roisin, can
never
I say
gotten
to you
over
that
it.
I never knew this? This is really, this is just
We're
a
gonna
very
be
childish
crying.
thing. I never knew when somebody said the dog has gone down the country. I thought they literally were gone down the country.
What does going down the country mean?
Gone to the vet to be put down. The dog
Oh,
country. I thought that really, where's so and so? Oh, it's gone down the country.
I never heard that.
I thought, oh, they're going to have a great life running around and whatever, but it wasn't. I gone to
Oh,
the vet because of whatever reason. They needed
so
to.
even like that, that's another sort of thing that has been be taken away from women from people living with disability is the
Well, if
even the
acquired
function of
disability,
having an
because,
animal.
but I think, yeah, I think there's a difference between. I feel that there's a difference. Other people would argue, and rightly, they have everybody's a different opinion. My personal opinion is because I acquired a disability, you know, that I know what I'm missing. It's not like I
Yeah.
never had it. You know,
Yes.
something like the ability to dance badly. Do you know? I mean, the things that I loved doing was putting on music, and I still tried to do it. You know, in the kitchen, dance around the kitchen on my own, like, you know, and screaming to the, you know, like a crow. Who cares? I
Yeah.
loved doing that. That was my kind of de-stressing, and I really miss it. I really, really
Oh,
miss it. That I can't, you know, pretend that I'm a queen or whatever, singing,
Dancing
screaming
Queen,
my brains out.
ABBA.
Yeah, any of them, you know. So those kind of, like, it's a simple thing, but when it's gone and taken away from you, you know, sort of thing. Or I started to think, you know, sort of that watching people. This is this is really bad. People, I believe, and I love people, so this is, you know, it's not, you know, a hate thing on them, but there are some very odd people out there. They would practically drive into a supermarket to get that close. You know, these are people that can walk and that can are strong and fit and all of the things that we'd all love to be. But instead, they will drive literally practically in the front doors of a supermarket, and they will actually park some of them in a disabled bay, you know, because they couldn't care less about another human being. But I
Mm.
often watch, because I watch people now. I'm a people watcher, but I think I always was, that people, here I am, oh my God, you have the ability to walk. This simple, beautiful ability to just to decide this power this body has to put one foot in front of the other, and you choose really to drive through the doors of a supermarket because you're so bloody lazy, and or who could walk their dog and who decide not to for whatever reason. It astonishes me because when you can't do that, when you know, and it's, this is not a bitter statement. I hope this
No,
anybody
it's
does.
not. It's actually a reality
It's a
of life.
reality of, you know, and look at, I was probably guilty myself of saying, oh, it's raining and I don't feel like it, you know. But the simple things, it's not the big things. I'd never wanted to climb Mount Everest. I had no desire to do any of those things. But when I look out my window and I see people casually going for a walk, I think how lucky you are to just go listen to some music and go for a walk and, you know, look at the trees and, you know, be out in nature, go for a walk in a forest. You know, in fact, I was passed somewhere yesterday or the day before into a green space that it's meant to be good for your mental health and it's meant to be good to be out in the fresh air. And they had those those gates, those kissing gates, whatever they call them. And I thought, whoever thought of that? How could somebody with a mobility issue ever get through those gates? So there's another, even just to
Good
get
point.
into a
Good
green
point.
area, you'd never be able to, sort of thing with a wheelchair or whatever. So I think in society, we are the most marginalized. We are the most ignored and voiceless, absolute voiceless. And really, sort of thing, if I was to look harshly at it, that the way that I think my personality is that I coped extremely well, considering, because I kind of laugh at a lot of things, even stupid things that happen to you because you're disabled. You just think, oh Jesus,
Either laugh or cry.
Yeah, I'd rather laugh. Do you know what I mean? For a lot of it, but a lot of it makes me so angry that it's such a simple thing, sort of thing, like, I mean, to make things accessible.
Yeah.
It's for everybody's benefit. And I will say, before you throw me off the show, to have no cars, to have everybody walking and on a bicycle is great. And those people are saving the planet. Somebody like me who can't get on a bus, to be able to access a bus, I'd be dead by the time I'd even find the bus. If then I have to find somebody to help me to get on it. All of those things. If I will not be, I would be a prisoner in my home if I don't have the availability of a car to take you from A to B. So the idea that somebody like me, well, okay, get a taxi if I can't. I'm a pensioner, right? My medical bills are very high every month, and the government decides that, well, we're not going to help you, sort of thing, like whatever. So that's a whole another problem. But the idea, every time I hear another, bicycle lane is put,
oh, don't get me started.
You name, where whoever thinks of the person with a disability that needs to be.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. It's all about this. It's all the Green Party bringing in all these cycling lanes and buses and
so none of them
systems.
with a mobility issue. None of them ever speak to a person with a disability.
No.
Ever spoke to a person in a wheelchair or blind.
That's where, Gladys, you are really being the voice of the voiceless. And this platform of Confident Women Ireland and the sister channel, the Irish Political Roundup, is where you are the voice on the platform for the voiceless, especially with women and people living with disabilities.
Well, I do my little bit, as much as I can.
A huge bit.
Just to try to shine a light in the darkness, sort of thing. Oh God, I sound like, oh my God.
No, you shine the light. You shine the light, and we put the floodlights on it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, I'm as old as you like. I just don't want anybody coming behind me.
You're only a couple of years older than me.
But I don't want anybody that doesn't have to go through that, what I went through. You know what I mean? And anything that will help that along, that somebody doesn't suffer, or feel as isolated, now having broken down the community living, or institutionalized the disabled people, you're now institutionalized in your own home. Do you know what I mean? So it's, and they call it, progress. So that's really, it's a joke.
Gladys, we're going to keep this conversation going, and on the Confident Women Ireland platform, and also the Irish Political Roundup, and we'll be seeing a lot more of you again going forward in the future. And you're one of the panelists as well.
Gladys for president.
Right? Gladys for president. I'll vote for you, and I'll canvass for you, Gladys. Gladys O'Neill, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us on Confident Women Ireland today. And thank you, the listeners, for taking the time to tune in and listen to Gladys's story. We really appreciate that. Please give Gladys a like and a comment and share this video. And really, you put up the shine the light and put the floodlights on people living with disabilities. Thank you so much indeed. Gladys O'Neill, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Shalom.